Good afternoon, you're very welcome along to World Cup Daily, and today's show is kind of going to be like that sad montage in Up when it goes through the old guy's life and you can't help but cry, and I think that's how we all feel today. We're sad that the journey has ended for England. Some of us are happy, but we couldn't help feel a little bit of regret for them last night. I'm joined in studio this afternoon by Phil Egan and Kieran Bradley, resident Englishman Kieran Bradley, of course, resident Irishman Phil Egan. One is laughing, one is crying, but both have tears in their eyes.
I started thinking of Up there, and when I went to see that in the cinema, because it was in 3D, I thought it was going to be fun, and then that bit came on. It's like, what am I doing here? I'm in my 20s here, crying at an animated film.
It hits you when you don't expect it, just like England losing last night. Just came out of the blue, didn't it, Kieran?
Oh God, this is awful.
It's like therapy.
No, it didn't.
It
was not very good. Let's put it that way. But no, like look, it kind of came out of nowhere. But once it started, you know exactly where it was going. It was actually like a Pixar movie. You knew it was going to kind of eventually end up where you wanted it to go. Well, where everyone in Ireland wanted it to go. But it was not the greatest watched. You got a bit of abuse last night? Yeah, a little bit. There was a lad in the pub beside me who, obviously, when Trippier scored, I gave it Yaldi.
Gave it the big one.
Yeah, so I gave it the Barry McGuigan.
Great free kick.
Yeah, it was a great free kick, but you know, it's all in the past now. But yeah, so as soon as Croatia scored, the lad in front of me just turned around and gave it that, and I was like, oh my lord! I do not want to adhere to the English hooligan stereotype here, so I'm going to stay very zen. But you know what? It was a fair result in the end. It's just so near yet so far.
Did you manage to say zen?
Yeah, honestly, it was a very quick sort of turnaround really, because after about half an hour I was like pretty circumspect about things. It was like, you know what? That's the way it goes sometimes. And it's been a really, really fun tournament for England, regardless of what happened. I know, you know, it's a bit of a cliche, but it was so much fun, and it ended how
unexpected, I suppose. That's probably the fun bit. It was unexpected.
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere, and as every hype train does, it gathers momentum as you go through. But you know, it was really enjoyable, and I'm kind of finding. I was saying to Eoin there earlier, finding it hard to maybe put a little bit of a tactical analysis together at this stage because you're so sort of emotionally invested in it. But
sure, I'm sure like everybody who's supporting a team can't really tell you immediately after what exactly happened, why they lost. Yeah. They can tell you that they lost, and they can tell you who scored.
They can, yeah.
But why it happened is something that we struggle with. Phil, you like just chatting before we came on air, you've got a fairly good idea of why it didn't work for England last night.
Yeah, well, we talked about it yesterday. England would look for that quick start. I mean, they get the perfect start, they get the goal, and then they make Croatia look really nervous. And there was kind of 3 or 4 balls that they passed straight out of touch. Lovren and Vida looked really uneasy with Sterling. Everyone, we know, obviously there's an agenda against Sterling because he's not scoring goals, but we saw why Sterling is in the team. He had them on the back foot, and that's when England needed to score a second. I don't know how Harry Kane missed that chance, and he has a great chance to square it to Sterling. He doesn't, but I'm not even looking at that because I'm thinking it's Harry Kane. He should smash that into the back of the net. He gets a second chance and hits the post from 2 yards. It was almost like...
It's incredible.
Was that not given as offside?
It was, but if it goes back to VAR, it's not offside. Yeah, so if he put the ball in the back of the net, it counts, and they're 2-0 up. And then I think it's game over. But unfortunately, they remind me a lot of what Liverpool did to get to the Champions League final. Blitz teams in spells. But the difference is Liverpool scored 3 and 4 goals in these blitzes. England only had 1 to show for it. And I'd say after half an hour, Croatia sussed them out. And at half time, they're probably in the changing room going, this is it, lads. This is all they've got. Yeah. They're like I'm going to use another boxing analogy.
They rope it up then is what you're going to say.
What they'll say, what it looked like was England went in there to get the fight done in 4 or 5 rounds, but then they found themselves in round 6 huffing and puffing, and okay, they still were able to land the odd shot, but Croatia were in the ascendancy then.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point. Like when you speak about Liverpool and you speak about the parallel, and I apologise to all non-Liverpool fans out of here, but we got to give Phil Egan this kind of room to breathe. Go down to home straight here and call Dejan Lovren the GOAT or something.
Well, I'll tell you who thinks Dejan Lovren's the greatest player of all time. Dejan Lovren. Because obviously we talked about it yesterday, the build-up to the game, everyone reminded him, you know the way you got taken off when you played against Harry Kane at Wembley early in the season? He was quite quick to point out, well, I also had some good games against Tottenham, which I was scratching my head because I remember him also setting up a penalty incident in that 2-2 draw at Anfield last season as well. But he was speaking to beIN Sports after the game, and he said, it's something special for me. From my point of view, people said I had a difficult season, but I don't agree. I took Liverpool to the final of the Champions League. Now with my national team, we're in the final. I think people should recognise I am also one of the best defenders in the world and not just talk nonsense.
Hold on. The neck of that man.
There is the post-match comments kind of remind me of like Davy Fitzgerald or something like that, where after a game where they were expected to win, he goes to the media and is like, everybody wrote us off. They didn't give us a chance above in Dublin. The national media didn't give us a chance.
You can't achieve anything unless you're written off.
And that's what the Croatian, like Luka Modric as well, his comments.
Look, to me, the build-up to that Croatia game felt like the longest build-up in the world. And even when we were on the show yesterday and we were talking about tiredness and the physical element to it, part of me was thinking, we've been talking about this for so long now, and they're not immune to the media. You know, they are listening and reading this stuff because they're on their phones in a hotel somewhere. But look, there's factors you can control and there's factors you can't. And I think that England were just outplayed at the end of it. And we were talking last couple of days about momentum, and my God, if you wanted a feeling of momentum, it was the shift towards Croatia after Perisic's goal, because England had no answer. And maybe that's a touch of the youth that England have in that side, and they don't have a little bit more now to see that out. But it's the way the cookie crumbles, isn't it?
Yeah, we saw that against Colombia when they conceded as well, that they looked really on the ropes, and that was the case last night as well. I think the energy thing, we talked so much about Croatia not having the energy. England were the ones then at the end who had no energy, because Croatia might have played games that have gone into extra time, but they get the ball from A to B by passing. Yeah. England seem to have to get the ball from A to B by running. They need those kind of players. I thought Jordan Henderson, as good a tournament as he's had, finally, not he was found out, but the system was found out, where he was exposed. And people say, oh, he couldn't get close to Modric. They did a good job of Modric in the first half an hour. I thought Lingard and Ali were there as well, pretty much making sure he didn't get a chance. But then the space started to open up because they just couldn't maintain it. And that's what happened. Was they just you have to, if you want to play that way, you just can't sustain it for 90 minutes. And tactically then, they weren't astute enough to be able to plug the gaps. They bring on Dyer for Henderson, but if Henderson is having those problems, Dyer is going to have even more problems, because Henderson's better at that role. They didn't change the tactics up. So I think eventually the system got found out. They got this far because they got a nice favourable draw.
They learned from that.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
I hope so. Again. I hope they will.
Yeah, look, I hope they do, and I think they've got the man in place to help them learn through that and kind of do it in a fairly cold-eyed, non-emotional way, without making him sound like a complete robot. But also, just to come back to an earlier point that Phil made there, the first half was a really odd level of intensity, I found. And I actually felt the same thing with France versus Belgium as well. I don't know if it's an aspect of the atmosphere in the stadium, but it was so flat. That Lingard chance, that should be, the world is on your shoulders, get your laces through it, and it was just so tame. And like these things, it was like, God, lads, how many times does it need to happen to a football team where you're probably slightly outclassed? Take your chances. Yeah. It's the top level of football.
You get that shot blasted. Just kind of on a wider point before we move on to John, who's going to be live with us from Moscow. You can tweet us, by the way, at Off the Ball if you've got any questions or any abuse for Kieran Bradley. I know it's not an Irish thing to rub it in people's faces. I don't do that, but you can if you want.
I do.
So we'll get over to him in a moment. But one last thing, just from your perspective, because of the fact that really up until Moscow, nobody from England travelled to the games. England must have been, I know you weren't over there, you were going to go home to England if they'd made the final, probably.
Oh no, I'm still going home. I completely jinxed it. The flights were booked.
It's gamble you had to take. Imagine how extortionate it would have been. But just imagine what it would have been like in England over the last 4 weeks. Like, in essence, when you're an English person who's been at home, when you've been around London or anywhere in England for the last 4 weeks, you won't remember that it was bad teams that they beat in the semi-finals or the quarter-finals. You won't remember really that they had the opportunity and to a certain extent bottled the semi-final. You'll remember the 4 weeks. You'll remember just the longevity of enjoying a World Cup and being there longer than Spain, longer than Brazil. And like, it's a form of escapism almost from what's going on in the UK at the moment. Like, it's and I see Jonathan Liu in the London Independent a couple of days ago was kind of referring to this as the third summer of love, and I was like, that's going big time, like to go back to the 60s and to the end of the 80s to actually find another time when this is comparable to what they're experiencing in England right now, and like, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I was saying this last night. If you'd offered any England fan before the tournament a World Cup semi-final, a win on penalties at some stage, I hate the phrase, a team that plays for themselves and each other, a manager who is confident and humble and intelligent, and a potential golden boot winner, like, you'd have taken that every day of the week. And it's just, we're all in football for memories, and granted it's not going to be the ultimate memory of lifting the big version of that bad boy, but you have them still. And I'll remember the emotional exhaustion of the post-Colombia match where, it was, I couldn't sleep. And people in England will have the more visceral memories, aside from the odd ambulance that got trampled. You know what I mean? There's always got to be casualties.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's hope that's the end of it. That is, of course, the one positive of England not winning last night. We don't have to like play a load of videos of people jumping through bus stops.
Beer in the air.
You're getting me a little bit. Yeah, you're getting me a little bit jealous of kind of emotional exhaustion from sporting related things. Let's not forget the Nations League is coming later on this year, and you can experience that sort of feeling later on this year when Ireland play Wales and Denmark in glorified friendlies. Let's go to Moscow. John, it feels kind of weird. You're in Moscow, by the way. It feels weird to be chatting to you today. It's our last World Cup daily. It feels that it was kind of the end of a chapter last night in terms of the World Cup. That, to be fair, the World Cup final would have been increased in glamour and in terms of interest everywhere, really, had England made it. Yeah, Del O'Brien on Facebook has been in touch to say the back three got found out. First quality opposition they've faced, and to be fair, in terms of the first quality opposition they faced, is that a little bit irrelevant when it comes to England in this tournament? It's just the winning the penalties, it's the process of getting to the semi-finals, and essentially the opposition is going to be forgotten about. I've kind of changed my view on that over the last 24 hours because I felt that it would be a stick used to beat them with over the next few weeks and months. But now that I think of it, and now that I kind of listen to what you're saying, listen to some of the post-match comments on TV and from the pundits and from the players and management, it does feel like the first quality opposition thing isn't going to be as big a deal in hindsight.
Southgate's name, and I feel that this was the biggest learning curve England have probably had since 2006 when Sven's team got to the quarterfinals and the team of brilliant individuals back then. This is a different team, a more unified team, a team that plays in a certain way, a team that could be 2 or 3-0 up at half
John, I'm just going to cut across you there. My apologies. We're just having trouble establishing your audio online on the YouTube stream. So apologies about that to everybody watching as well. John Duggan was saying some great stuff there. We'll get him to repeat the exact same things once we re-establish his feed in just a moment. Let's go back to this comment here. Like, I agree with, like, if Del O'Brien had said this yesterday, I probably would have agreed. Back three got found out, first quality opposition they faced, and my view, maybe I've just bought into the hype. Maybe I've started to become attached to that England team, and I'm like, the quality opposition thing doesn't matter. The back three thing, though, is correct. Yeah,
it was strange. I actually felt that Kyle Walker in the first half was probably one of England's better players. I felt that he was doing a lot of covering for the likes of Stones, Stones in particular. But, you know, they just started to get a little bit sloppy. I actually felt that for the first time in the tournament, this idea of playing out from the back became very under pressure. There were times where it would probably been more kind of wise to go a little bit more direct and get the likes of Trippier and Young involved. Yeah, for sure. John, you're back there. I think we've re-established your feed to the outside world. Just generally, just on that point that Kieran is making about the back three, like, is this a tactic now that Gareth Southgate is going to take and nurture and kind of establish as something that is the England-defined way of playing out from the back and all that sort of stuff? Or is it back to the drawing board?
Well, it's only relatively new that he's brought it in. Yeah. I think you need to have better players that can control the ball in the middle of the field. And Jordan Henderson has been the only one, really. I thought Ali struggled yesterday after a bright opening. And you have to be able to control the ball. Well, the one thing I noticed as the game went on is Croatia are enjoying passing the ball around. I think we've had an issue in our own country with players not being able to be comfortable passing the ball and controlling the ball, because it just takes the pressure off everybody. And if you're hoofing long balls up and the ball has come back to you and Croatia are passing the ball, it just increases the pressure. And that's what I saw. Like, England were hanging on after Perisic scored, and I just knew it was coming, the winning goal from Mandzukic. So they need just more technical players. They need a Gascoigne. I mean, and they need the players. I know society has changed, but they need the players who learn football on the streets. I know our best generation of players, even though they weren't put into that system by Jack Charlton, who had a different style of play, which wasn't necessarily pretty, but it got results. We had great players. We had Liam Brady. You know, we'd brilliant footballers. Even back in 2002, we had Robbie and Damien Duff. You need players that are comfortable on the ball, and I don't think there are enough players in the England team who are comfortable on the ball. Starting with the goalkeeper, who was panicking, and it was just trying to get it out as quickly as he could yesterday. And that is a lack of savvy in a semi-final of a World Cup. A little bit of a leadership deficit there, and I think that during the tournament, as I said this before, when Tunisia and Colombia scored, England reverted to type. And once Croatia did, England could have won that game 2 or 3-0 last night and got hammered 5-0 by France in the final, because the chinks might not have been exposed, but they were exposed. But it's something to build on, because the base was at nothing. The problem is with the expectations of English people, the way the game is covered. Now there'll be huge hype when they expected to win the Euros in London, and it doesn't work that way. They should be given. The team should be treated the way it was treated this month, always. But that just is not the way it happens over there.
John, it's Kieran here. I wonder whether there's some brightness in the future in terms of the under-17s and under-20s squads are world champions, as unfortunately the senior squad were unable to do. Do you feel that in the absence perhaps of a street footballer, that kind of player, that these types of players coming through the academies at Liverpool, Manchester United, Man City, Arsenal, might they be able to help kind of keep refreshing the squad and put us in a good position for the Euros?
You'd like to think so. I think they've obviously done a lot of great work at St George's Park. I asked a colleague who the best English player coming through was. He said Ashley Maitland-Niles was the best one coming through. And he said that you need to play through the centre with confidence, and we need to be talking about England as a top 3 or 4 in the world team. We're still not talking about them, even though they're being in the top 4 of the world. We're not talking about them as a top 3 or 4 of the world team. We're talking about them at about between maybe 6 and 10 in the world at the moment. I think that's where England are based on this World Cup. So I also, here's an interesting thing. John Stones wasn't playing much football this season.
We appear to have lost John Duggan there again. Just one for you here, Phil. Gary Hackett on Facebook has said, Southgate, a class act in the way he conducts himself, the closest thing to a likeable English setup, if there is such a thing, we will see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the difference with this team now, it was their first World Cup semi-final in 28 years. Like Bobby Robson had announced he was leaving after that tournament. Terry Venables, Euro 96, they got so close to a final. He was gone after that as well. But Gareth Southgate is sticking around. He knows the setup. He knows how the FA works. Now, my issue with you've all these young players coming through, are they going to get game time in the Premier League? You know, we've seen Phil Foden, there's a lot of hope for him. Got a little bit of game time at Manchester City. But we heard all about this new identity that England had. Now, watching the game last night, I didn't see it. I just saw, we play out from the back. What I saw was Jordan Pickford would play it to one of his three, and then they'd go direct. So, okay, you see the goalkeeper, instead of the goalkeeper going direct all the time, they're just playing it to one of the three. And what Croatia were quite happy to do was, right, Pickford, you can play it out, but as soon as you play it to one of the three, then we're going to press you, because we're not going to press the goalkeeper, because he's got quite a big boot in him that he can clear the halfway easily. Like, he can nearly land it in the opposition penalty area. But it was quite clear that Croatia said, we'll sit back, but we have a trigger point. And as soon as either Stones, who's the most comfortable with the ball, Harry Maguire or Kyle Walker get the ball, then we're on them. And then they don't have the courage to play that ball into the middle, because they don't have someone that can look after it the way Luka Modric can. There was times where there was a ball played to Modric in the first half, absolutely belted at him. He's only, 5'4", and it was up near his chest. He had an England player behind him. He controlled it on his chest like a classic number 9 and sprayed the ball out to the wing. Yeah, that is like your ultimate midfielder, who, like, he's in with a chance of becoming the golden ball winner if Croatia win the World Cup.
You'd probably have to make him borderline favourite at this point, just given the France performance against Belgium. Kieran, before we let you go, just final point, is this now a situation where a nation expects?
Look, I'm not going to deny there's probably an element of that now, that maybe we've got slightly inflated expectations, but I think actually what's shown generally, and maybe other aspects are shown kind of in the media, is that in general England fans are pretty well kind of attuned to what football is, and a general feeling of where we are in the world. But look, I think that's led by that idea is led by the players, and the players are basically saying, we don't really fear anyone, and like, we've got a bit of kind of youthful exuberance, and maybe that changes in 2-4 years time, but for the moment, let's enjoy it. And what I would hope to see is a little bit of a refreshment of the squad coming through, and a few more younger players, and yeah, look, I don't expect very much. I think if you go in with a little bit lower expectations, you'll always be surprised. But no, I would like to see us start punching above our weight a little bit.
Start inciting the hate of the Irish again. That'll be a good start. You know, the fact that I liked England is a bad sign. Kieran, thank you very much. Thanks for your company all throughout World Cup Daily, throughout this tournament, and thank you for roaring like a lion that one time. That's going to go down in the highlights clip. Right, time to get Leon Blanche into the studio. We've got all Boyle Sports odds coming up. There's some great offers coming up as well on offtheball.com/Boyle Sports. You can hop on there right now if you want to check them out. But first of all, as a nation licked its wounds last night, Roy Keane wasn't long rubbing salt all over them on ITV's post-match coverage.
Before the game and yesterday and today, we're talking about England, the whole talk about the final, the final, France, can they play? Yeah, and I know May made a point a few weeks ago, a bit tongue-in-cheek with the players, but you're going, you have to focus just on one game, and everyone was talking about the final.
What are you talking
about? The football's coming home. Go on, do your impression. Right.
We wasn't talking about the final like that. We were just having a laugh with you. The fact is, we were trying to just we were happy. You weren't happy for us being happy at that time. But I think that we were...
I don't mind you being happy, but you're like getting carried away. And I was right. You were planning the final where the parades were.
No, we weren't.
You were talking about you did a reality check.
No, we weren't. Why should we get excited about it? It was something.
Yeah, get excited. Listen, get excited when they get to the final. No, but this was the semi-final, the group match.
People didn't even expect us to get to the semi-final. What can we be excited about being in there?
Yes. Taking one game as a
before the game, everybody was thinking that we'd beat Croatia. Before the game,
about the final.
Yeah, but everybody thought that we'd beat Croatia before the game. Why should I be excited about that?
You know how hard it is to get to these big finals, or even get to a World Cup. You're talking about finals.
Final.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Relax yourself.
He's going to cane me again.
No, but listen, but the really good thing is because we all know, and you've all played the game, I'm not interested in international football, they're not interested in international football. International football is alive and thriving. And that is great. And they are not mutually exclusive. You can love Manchester United and love England and love Peterborough and love Wales. You know what I'm saying? They can
For the last 5, 10, 15 years, people go, the international breaks here, the Premier League has stopped. That's been the attitude in our country. It's been absolutely the attitude, and maybe this tournament has just given everybody a little bit of a lift of how important the national team can be to the whole country.
Yes. If nothing else, you can love the both at the same time. Absolutely.
Love England more when they're playing.
And reaching a semi-final.
Absolutely, which is an unbelievable achievement for this lot.
Are we getting annoyed at the idea that Ian Wright mocked Roy Keane's Irish accent?
Look, come here. Ian Wright had to try and mock someone to hide his disappointment. Look, I think if you'd offered anyone related to England, they would have taken a semi-final. But the bare facts are there: 9 goals from set pieces out of 12. The inefficiencies, the lack. I've given Southgate a lot of credit, but I'm going to give him a little dig now. I thought he was so inexperienced, so out of his depth last night. England reverted back into a shell in the second half. They were 5 across the back. He did change it. I'll give him a bit of credit in terms of he changed in the first half of extra time. But his substitutions weren't to try and change the game. His substitutions were already mapped out before the game started. We all knew that it would be Danny Rose coming on for Ashley Young. We all knew if something happened to Henderson, he'd bring on Dyer. There was nothing to change the game. There was nothing when they even went 2-1 down. Okay, let's just stick on Vardy. But I thought England were very naive last night. And maybe it is because they're so young and they've never been in that position before. But Southgate's done okay. I wouldn't say he's done brilliantly. And I think England, when they came up against a side who are willing to pass, who are willing to press, like they could have been 2 or 3-0 up in the first half, that's fair. But I thought Croatia were excellent in the second half. The way they took the game to England, they could have won it in normal time when Perisic hit the post when it was 1-1. And I thought Croatia were quite clever in the first kind of 7 or 8 minutes of the first half of extra time. They kind of got a breather into themselves. England looked to be, Southgate had pushed the 2 wing-backs up a bit further on. It looked to be doing a bit of damage, but then Croatia just grew into the game. The last 2 or 3 minutes of the first half and then into the second half, I only felt there was one winner. And I'm delighted for Modric. He's just a joy to watch. I mean, the amount of kilometres he must put in is remarkable, and he never is afraid to take the ball in such tight spaces. Any kid who wants to be a footballer, watch Luka Modric, because that's how you play the game. And by the way, 4.1 million people in their country. It's something we should be aspiring to be. I mean, we've got well over 4.1, and to look at them and to look at how they play and how they play for each other. I'm not saying the Irish team always has that play together, but I think this is how football should be played.
Yeah, no question about that. Also, a decent enough night for your tips as well. You were back in Croatia, and then I believe you said at the end of yesterday, actually, Croatia to qualify.
Yeah, Croatia to qualify because they were the same price. England were 13-10 to win in 90, and Croatia were 13-10 to just get through. So I did. I had a few quid on Croatia. Look, it's going to be an intriguing final. I hope, like we said yesterday, Phil, I hope Croatia can score first. I hope they scored first last night. They didn't. What a setback after 5 minutes. But I think France, they're like this train that just knows where to go, and they won't stop for anything. They're kind of functional without being exceptional. I think they have the players. I think Deschamps, however, has set his side up now that they're very hard to score against. I mean, they don't really concede goals. If you take out the Argentina game, France have been ruthless at the back. And I think in Kante and Matuidi, they've got 2 absolute workhorses. And I look at Pogba now and see him buying into the system. He's actually become very disciplined. He's not running around like a headless chicken as we've seen him in a Manchester United shirt where you don't know what type of role he's playing for the team. And I think he's become a team player under Deschamps. And maybe he's looking up to Deschamps because he's done it as a footballer. He's now doing it as a manager. And France are worthy favourites at 10-11. And if you fancy France, We're given 50 to 1, 50 to 1 for France to lift the World Cup. Off the ball.com/Boyle Sports for new customers. I mean, France, to me, I thought they would have been a little bit shorter, considering the fact that Croatia now have played 120 minutes 3 times in a row, but they just seem to get a bit of energy from nowhere last night.
Yeah, like I said earlier, England looked like they were the team that had played more, but that's because Croatia were able to work the ball. England had to do a lot of chasing, and that takes a lot more out of you when you don't have the ball, and it can be quite demoralising at times. My worry for Croatia in the final is they've gone behind against Denmark, they've been behind against Russia, they've been behind against England. If they go behind against France, I don't see them coming back. I think France are just perfect to hit you on the counter-attack, and probably should have had a few more against Belgium, but they didn't. But maybe the final could be the one where they fill their boots.
John's back in the line. John, what do you make of that? Do you think that it's going to be a game that if France take the lead, they're not going to let it go?
I don't know what happened, lads. The connection there. That's when you're thousands of miles away from Dublin, but we've had a good run. France 10-11. Oh, what a banker! What a banker, lads! Fill your boots. France are going to win the World Cup final. I think they're stone cold certainties, lads. Haven't seen what I've seen over the tournament. I think they're peaked. They're primed to win this tournament, given the graph they've been on since 2014. Quarterfinals, then losing to the champions, beaten in their home Euros. They probably should have won. Remember them in the semi-final. They put in probably the best performance. They thought possibly that was the final. Paul Pogba has been saying that in the run-up to this game. Don't think they'll make the same mistake this time. And I can't wait to see it. I'd love to see Mbappe play as he can play and as he has been playing in this final. Although the one thing, as Philip correctly pointed out before the Belgium game, Perisic against Pavard plays. That'll be an interesting battle, and maybe Croatia can make some yards there.
Yeah, look, I think Perisic
turned up last night. Finally,
he did, and you know what? It's like when you get to this stage of the tournament, that can do so much for a player to stand up for his country in the semi-final, to be that man. And he really did. I mean, he grabbed the mantle. Mandzukic, great finish by him. An absolutely tremendous finish, having missed, I thought, a gilt-edged opportunity. People say good save. I say terrible miss. You've got to score when you're that close.
But I didn't think he was going to get up.
Yeah.
And Jordan Pickford said something to him when he was on the ground. And I wondered when Mandzukic scored, would he repeat and go over to Pickford and say, what did you say? I didn't hear you. But in fairness, he wanted to run towards his own fans.
I thought that was a bit of experience by Mandzukic when he went down under that challenge by Pickford to get a breather, to give his rest of his teammates a breather. You could see all the England players because they were on top at that time. But he laid on the ground. He got himself about a minute and a half. I'm sure his teammates were very, very thankful for that. But I agree with John. I'm looking at France, and I just think Croatia have been great. As Phil said, they've fallen behind 3 times and they've come back. If they fall behind against France, I don't see a way back because of the way Deschamps has France set up, and they're perfect for the counter-attack. Griezmann, I thought he was exceptional against Belgium. We're enhancing him to 6-1 from 9-2 to score the first goal for new and existing customers. Offtheball.com/Boyle Sports. I just like France. I'm looking at it and I'm looking at 1-0 or 2-0. I think they can actually keep a clean sheet against Croatia. Mandzukic ran around tirelessly last night, but at the end of the day, I know it's a World Cup final. France have had a whole extra day rest. They didn't play extra time, and I just think they'll come into this game and they'll fully expect to get the job done in 90 minutes. The one thing I would say, if it goes past 90 minutes, I think that will give Croatia plenty of encouragement because of what's happened in the tournament so far.
Yeah, it's true. I think the way to figure out how to beat your body in that situation, well, Croatia have had to do it 3 times. I mean, how do you manage to keep that mental strength when, first of all, you got the unbelievable pressure, and second of all, you got a fatigued body? I think that's a bigger factor than the actual factor of fatigue itself. That being said, it gets coloured significantly for Sunday because of the 24 hours on top of that as well that France have had. So it's going to be tough. John, how do Croatia manage to break down the Kante and Pogba duo in front of their backline, which they utilised so well against Belgium the other night? It seems that even Modric and Rakitic might not have the incisive nature to even break those 2 down. Yeah,
I'm going to find it difficult to see how they're going to do it. did they just, I don't know, maybe move Modric further up the pitch and use the width of the pitch? But I can't see it, lads. I just can't see Modric getting the time in the ball. Dele Alli was meant to track him yesterday. Don't think he did that great a job on it. I don't think Modric will get the time in the ball that he's had in the tournament so far. And I just can't see an opening for Croatia here. I think France have got a perfect balance in the team. I'm like, apart from maybe the fullbacks who are a little bit young, although Hernandez has played well. Where are the weaknesses in the French team? Where?
Fullback potentially?
Yeah, I'd probably look.
That's what I just said, but yeah, where?
Yeah.
Apart from that.
Yeah, I mean, and as well, John, I see the two Croatian fullbacks last night. They were quite attack-minded. But I do probably see Croatia have got a little bit of pace out wide, but maybe it's to bring the likes of Perisic in a little bit off the flanks and create a little bit of space for your fullbacks coming up. But France do look to me, they look very solid everywhere. They look a very strong unit. They've got an exceptional bench as well. And I think if it's not going to plan, you look at the Croatian bench against the French bench, and France have got so many more options than what Croatia have. So, look, it does look to me, I kind of agree with John. I think 10 to 11, I'm sure actually it'll be shorter come kick-off. I think favourite backers will look at France, will look at what they've done so far in the tournament. They'll look at the road Croatia have, and they'll just think France at 10 to 11. And I think the French will want to get it done inside 90 minutes. I don't think they'll want extra time. So I do expect France to do it. I mean, I'm looking at France and under, and it might be a boring World Cup final. But I think France under 1.5 goals at 4 to 1 represents a little bit of value. I don't see loads of goals here, John. I just think if France get ahead, they'll be quite happy to do what they did against Belgium. Soak up pressure. Yes, they might hit Croatia on the counter-attack, but they'll be very happy with a 1-0 win.
I wonder what Pogba is, Leon, for any time scorer, given all the talk about Pogba. Wouldn't be fitting for Pogba, lads, to score in a World Cup final.
Yeah, he's
15 thing.
He's 11 to 1 to score first, John, and he's 9 to 2 to score at any time. And I mean, I know you're a fan of his, and I think you're a fan in terms of how he's developed in this tournament. And I was only saying to Owen, I think he's really taken on board what it means to be a team player. He seemed to embrace his defensive side of his role. His passes have been very accurate. I don't remember him putting a pass wrong since the quarter-final stage. He seems to have really grown, and he's only a young lad still. I think Deschamps deserves an awful lot of credit the way he's managed Paul Pogba.
Yeah, it's that's Deschamps all over, though, isn't it? Deschamps, 1998, winning captain of France, and was a leader. Aimé Jacquet saw that back in 98, and a lot of players like the Benzemas, the Nasris of the world, we're not even talking about them. The likes of Martial, Lacazette, not even in the squad. Mondi and Sidibe were the first choice fullbacks. That's how strong France are. And I think they would have taken Brazil, to be honest, guys. And I just think they're at the peak of their graph, like Germany were 4 years ago, and like Spain were 4 years before that.
I just wonder, one thing we haven't talked about, pressure. France are the favourites. They should have won the Euros 2 years ago. Now, that should sharpen their focus going into a final to remember what happened. But everyone, I don't know about you, but I'd love to see Croatia win. It's the underdog. It'd be an incredible story. A country with just over 4 million winning a World Cup would be amazing. But all the pressure is on France. And if Croatia can frustrate them, if they could score first, then I just wonder, we've seen with French teams in the past that they can implode a bit.
Yeah, well, if it's an implosion, it's going to be on the grandest stage of them all. Perhaps the Paris factor in 2016, I wonder, does that have an impact? It's like the home Euros and all that sort of stuff. You do wonder, but then again, the counterpoint to that is 98. So,
yeah.
Different squad, obviously, entirely. But like when we think about this weekend in general, are we even going to mention Saturday night, the big one, the Golden Boot derby?
It's such a pointless game. Because, I mean, they both get bronze medals. So what is what is the point in having a third and fourth place playoff when you give both teams a bronze medal? It's just a pointless game. It's just a waste of time. For Harry Kane, I suppose if he'll probably say to Gareth Southgate, look, play me, because if Lukaku plays and he was to get 2/3 goals, I mean, he'll take away the golden boot. But look, Harry Kane has the golden boot wrapped up. It's a nonsense game. I mean, how can you even expect two teams that have got beaten in the semi-final to try and raise their level or try and get up for this game? Maybe the lads who haven't played, who played in the group game, will want to try and put down a marker when it comes to the qualifying campaign for 2020. But other than that, I mean, I won't watch it.
No.
You will.
No.
You want to see Adnan Januzaj?
No.
Another one past Jordan Pickford?
No.
You'll watch it for après match and
look, a bit of fun.
Match, yeah.
No, but look, it's pointless.
John,
Really.
I presume you're the same.
I'll be preparing my briefs, my stats for the World Cup final the following day, and picking up my ticket hopefully on Saturday. So I won't be. I'll be giving an eye on it, obviously, from a reporting point of view, but I won't be getting at the popcorn and the Bon Aqua, as they call the water over here.
Well, John, it's been a pleasure having you on World Cup Daily every day during the World Cup. Take care, enjoy the final, and we'll chat to you on OTB AM tomorrow morning.
Lads, I've had a ball. Thank you so much, Eoin, Leon and Phil, and let the best team win on Sunday.
Absolutely. John Duggan there, our man in Moscow. He's played a blinder throughout the tournament, a blinder in the fashion stakes and the cuisine stakes and the tourism stake. It's been a learning experience for all of us. Just one last one on Belgium, England. I can't believe we're still talking about this, but just noticing as you mentioned, the Harry Kane factor and the Lukaku factor. Kane to score any time is evens. Lukaku to score any time is 11-10. But like both teams to score and match results, Belgium 13-5, England 4-1. Like, if you're betting on either team to win, you've got to go both teams to score in a third place playoff, don't you?
Yeah, listen, hopefully they'll both just have a go.
Yeah.
There's no pressure. It doesn't matter what happens in the game. Interesting to see some of the bigger players, the likes of Hazard. Will he want to play? Should he get an injury? He's got a big decision to make about his future. The new Chelsea coach is slowly but surely coming to Stamford Bridge. And that's what I'd be looking at. But I think the players who haven't played, they'll definitely want to get out there, show their manager that they're well capable. But it's a game that has nothing on it. So it's an entirely different proposition to what England and Belgium face when they played their semi-finals. But look, I think England will actually beat Belgium in the third, fourth place playoff, even though they both get bronze medals.
Yeah,
you don't even remember. I can't really remember the teams that win these games.
No.
No. Your guess is as good as mine.
Did Brazil beat Holland 4 years ago?
No, nobody knows. Not even Brazil or Holland know that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I think South Korea won the playoff in 2002, and that's about the only one I remember. Or did they lose it?
Oh, I can't even.
Like, who the hell knows?
But that proves the point. Like, nobody cares.
No one cares. It's better off watching Roscommon against Tyrone and then Dublin against Donegal, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. That is a shout. Leon Blanche, thank you very much for everything throughout the tournament.
Lads. It's been great.
Good tips as well there. Finishing off on a flourish there last night. You're tipping France to win, I presume, on at the weekend. You're pretty clear.
Yeah, I'm going France.
Yeah, I think I'll go with France, but I'd love Croatia to win.
Yeah, it would be great. It would top off a tournament full of drama. Leon, thanks again. We'll chat to you again soon. Back on the hurling show, of course, you are from tomorrow at 12:30. Remember, you can go on to offtheball.com/boilsports for exclusive offers for new customers and existing customers. The new customer exclusive at the moment is France to lift the World Cup at a whopping 50-1. And in the in that same game, Griezmann to score first is at an enhanced price of 6-1, even if you are already a Boyle Sports customer. Go on to offtheball.com/Boyle Sports. Right, next we're picking our team of the tournament. We're going to get Raf Diallo's take on the rest of the World Cup, and before that we're going to hear some of Stewie Byrne. He was on the show last night chatting to Joe and talking about England post-World Cup.
Is that an England team that you think will do very well at the Euros in 2 years' time, or has this been a bit of a flash in the pan, helped by a fairly routine group and then a nice route through to the semi-final?
No, I would have to say if that group of players stay together, I think they can go one better the next time around. I certainly think they need one or two additions to that squad, in particular in midfield. Maybe somebody that can really
get on the ball,
yeah. Be creative. I mean, I don't know whether there seems to be this myth out there that you can't have a kind of a quality player and a worker in the same position. When you look at Modric, that guy gets through more work than anybody.
Yeah, he's wrecked.
He's wrecked. He's have to come off there next time because he's totally exhausted. I think he completely epitomises Croatia tonight. They just dug it. They just dug in. They were exhausted. They dug in. They dug deep. They used every inch of experience they had.
Brilliant on the ball again. I can't. Do you not? You don't think so? I
do agree. Yeah, but I still never thought that the Croatia we saw tonight was nowhere near the Croatia we seen 2 or 3 games ago at the start of this tournament. I think when you look at the tournament as a whole, I do think that the teams that have gotten into the final are probably the deserving teams. I'm delighted to see France and Croatia in the final.
Yeah, Stewie Byrne there speaking to Joe on last night's show. Raf, how are things?
I'm good.
So you've been in for most of the time to chat about permutations.
Permutations, yeah.
There is no permutations.
There is, actually. I heard the third, fourth place playoff being described as a waste of time. Couldn't be further from the truth. Always a good game. Actually better than the World Cup final a lot of the time, bar the lack of tension. Just there's more goals than it normally. Now, I do have a permutation for this, and it's the Golden Boot. Now, I heard earlier as well it being said that Kane has this wrapped up. If Lukaku scores twice and goes on to 6 goals as well, it's Lukaku's Golden Boot, unless Kane gets an assist.
Well, you can't get an assist from a penalty.
Yeah.
True that.
So
good point.
It's not over yet. So there is plenty riding on this game.
Well, by plenty you mean the Golden Boot.
Yes,
and
only the Golden Boot.
Like literally, as Leon explained there, no gold medal or bronze medal is even on the line here.
Well, there is a bronze medal. I mean,
but the 4th place gets it as well.
No, they just celebrate together, and everyone kind of piles in behind, arms together, everything else, which is what football should be all about.
Yeah, St. Petersburg will be a good time on Saturday night. Actually, it'll be better than Moscow, where you're just going to have.
It's definitely a game worth watching. I've seen some very good 3rd, 4th place playoffs.
Right. Okay. You've argued your case fairly well. You've kind of. You've been given the side of a debate, which is unarguable, but you've done a pretty good job.
I actually hope it does finish 6 each, and Harry Kane is there trying to claim an assist to get on the Golden Boot.
That would be hilarious. I hope that happens. Like, they should just call it off and just be like, right, you can score 10 and we can score 10. Let's go down in history as the most notorious game. Let's achieve something with this, and maybe the next time they'll actually just call the whole game off. Phil, we do want to get to your team of the tournament. This may cause a bit of controversy.
Yeah, see,
they always do.
It's tough to pick a team in the tournament with the final still to come, because if somebody comes up with the big moment in the final, that could get them into the team. See, I want to explain as well about the formation there. It's actually, I would be looking at a 4-2-3-1. So see where N'Golo Kante and Modric are. Drop them back and then bring De Bruyne, Coutinho and Hazard. The reason I've gone with Mbappe there, because I couldn't actually think of a talisman, that out-and-out centre forward that deserved to be in the team. And people say, why are you leaving out Harry Kane? He scored 6 goals. He scored 5 of them in games against Tunisia and Panama.
And one of them was actually inadvertent. It actually just deflected off his heel and went in.
Ruben Loftus-Cheek took a shot and it hit him, and then Harry Kane turns and smiles and, yeah, I'll claim that one, thanks.
Is it the worst Golden Boot won ever?
No, I'd say maybe 2010. They all kind of finished on 5 goals. There was Thomas Muller. There was.
Muller had a great tournament.
He did, yeah, but
like Kane, how many penalties? 3 penalties.
He's had a poor tournament.
A deflected one and 2 goals. Now people are saying he's injured.
Yeah,
which I have an issue with. If you're injured, why don't you say to the manager, "I'm not at full tilt here. Maybe you should take me out of the team."
Because a fit Danny Welbeck isn't as good as a half-injured Harry Kane.
Marcus Rashford,
centre forward.
He's better out wide.
I don't know. I think certainly from all the Golden Boots I can remember, it's Harry Kane is the one that will probably be most remembered, but it'll just be a statistic and people will be like, Harry Kane was amazing in 2018, which wasn't the case in the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Lukaku was had a decent enough group stage, but again, when it came to the knockout stages, he was okay. I was actually just going to put in Zuba.
Zuba was kind of semi my pick. I tweeted one out last night and I ended up putting Kane in there, but my heart's not in it.
No, yeah, and that's why I couldn't put him in, because my heart wasn't in it. I was just lying to myself.
Zuba had a bigger impact, I think.
Yeah, I like Zuba. Yeah.
But like Lukaku in the knockout stages does a step over for Japan, does a dummy in that situation for the winning goal.
A good game against Brazil.
Makes the winning goal in Brazil. Like, what more can you want from Lukaku?
Decent performance in the semi-final.
Well, there you go.
And Mbappe is just, the pace that he has, he can play through the centre. He obviously, just the way that Didier Deschamps employs them is to play him out wide.
We've got 2 players in there who didn't make the semi-finals, Godin and Coutinho.
Yeah, Godin has to be in there. There's a case to put him in there with Jimenez, his Atletico Madrid partner, but Varane is just class.
Yeah.
He's quality. Kieran Trippier I've gone for because of all the fullbacks, his distribution, even like the free kick last night, what a time, by the way, to score your first international goal. And I think in the second half, that, which, you know, he's quite well known for this, where a crossfield ball comes to him, doesn't take a touch, just puts it in straight in on the volley. Now, I have to say, Dejan Lovren got a great clearance in ahead of Harry Kane, but Trippier just fizzed it across the 6-yard box. It was a brilliant ball. His distribution, I think he was one of England's best players. I wasn't really sure about him before the tournament. I kind of thought they were missing out on having Kyle Walker as their wing back, but Trippier was so good that he justified his selection.
And you're probably right putting him in ahead of Pavard as well, who I think, if you take that goal away that he scored against Argentina, as amazing as it was, I don't know, was he as influential as Trippier to his own team?
No, and what frustrated me watching Pavard the other night was his distribution. It's awful.
Yeah.
He kept giving the ball away. He is a defender by trade, a centre half. He's been pushed out wide, and maybe that's something that'll come. He's still only 22, so when he gets older, maybe the distribution will improve. But I've gone for a French fullback, and that's Hernandez, because there hasn't been that many great left backs in the tournament.
The one I would have picked, and this is all much of a muchness, but Laxalt of Uruguay, maybe. I know the cornrows aren't going down well with everybody, but I think he had a decent tournament.
He did when he went in. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, they switched then to put Cáceres out on the right, because he started the first couple of games on the left, Cáceres, and slowed it all down. But I just think Hernandez I thought I was impressed with him the other night. He was quite tidy, and I'd imagine he'll have a decent enough final, so that's where I went with him.
By default.
I would name a better left back.
Exactly. It hasn't been a classic for the left backs. It hasn't been a Roberto Carlos sort of tournament.
You think of teams that got out of the group stage, like Portugal. I wasn't too impressed with Carrera.
No. Highlights and lowlights. I mean, I'm not sure. Is there another point you want to make about your team, about why it's the absolute definition of the exact World Cup best team of 2018? But
it's hard.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
There's arguments there. I felt sorry for Coutinho. I think he deserved better, but unfortunately, Neymar let them down with all his self-indulgent crap during the tournament. Where I look back at it now, I think actually without Neymar, Brazil might have gone further. But I thought he deserved a Hazard. I thought was great. De Bruyne delivered in the Brazil game when he was played in a more advanced role. That's why I put him in. But look, people are free to argue with that. I am all for debate, and if people have disagreements there, fire ahead.
Absolutely, go for it. Add off the ball, you can tweet Phil Egan directly as well. It's a pretty good team. I like it. There's not too many disagreements to be had there. Right, so highlights and lowlights of the tournament. It's still not over, but it's our last World Cup daily. What's been the big high point for you, Raf?
Big high point, I think just the kind of quality of the games. I mean, 2014 I really enjoyed, but we've had a few classics, the France-Argentina and the last 16, and then obviously the Spain-Portugal. It's just been good games throughout. Obviously I was a bit worried once Russia were trashing Saudi Arabia what type of tournament we're going to get, and then it actually turned out that it was pretty much as exciting as the 2014 group stages, but actually lasted longer into the knockout stages. And 1998, it's still going to be the World Cup I always look back on, but it's not too far from that. And hopefully if we get a good final, that just caps it off as well.
One of the highlights for me has to be Ronaldo's performance against Spain. I just remember the game itself. It was the day that he found out that he was going to have to pay a lot of money to the Spanish authorities, and he decided, well, I'll show you, I'll score a hat-trick. It was just the fact that it was topped off. It was the icing on the cake was the free kick, because we know how ineffective he is from free kicks, but he finally delivered, and there was just something about it as he pulled the shorts up to show his bulging thighs. He realised, you know what, I'm going to show you now, this is it, here comes the goal. So that was one of the highlights. It was one of the games of the tournament as well. I really enjoyed Brazil and Belgium. I was delighted to see Belgium. I think that's them done now. That's the golden generation. That's as good as it's going to get, but at least they gave us a memory of beating Brazil.
Yeah, and they gave their fans that as well. For me, Russia is one of the highlights. Just the country in general has benefited hugely. Maybe not a highlight, but certainly a winner. if we're going to get into winners and losers here of the tournaments.
Given the pre-tournament expectations, definitely, it actually turned out pretty well.
Yeah, but like when I'm looking at John Duggan down through the Skype line every day.
He's not coming home.
He's not coming home.
No, he's already filed for Russian citizenship.
Yeah, I've got a feeling he might have been a Russian agent all along.
Mario Fernandez. Yeah. He might get it.
Like everywhere John's been, I look at that city and I'm like, oh, I'd like to go there. Did he go to another city? It's like, oh, that looks nice as well. And that looks nice. And that looks nice. And everywhere he's been just seems like any other European city, as he's described Moscow as numerous times. And like, it's not just about drinking the Kool-Aid. It is genuinely a place with seemingly a lot of high points, even from just a geographical and touristic point of view. So I'm getting my plane ticket to Russia.
Where would you go?
St. Petersburg or Moscow would be the obvious ones, just because it's actually manageable to get from one to the other without travelling for 4 days.
John will put in a word for you in that place. What's it called?
Ulyanovsk.
Yeah.
That was another highlight of the World Cup, was John getting the freedom of Ulyanovsk and putting himself above Vladimir Lenin in terms of the notable people on their Wikipedia page. In terms of lowlights then, one of my big ones was Peru getting knocked out in the group stages. That was the one thing that could have made the knockout stages really good, or better I should say, is Peru making it. I think they deserved to get out of the group. They played such good football, and for Denmark to pip them to, well, not pip them, but to get out of that group instead of them was devastating. And the other low light for me, and this may be a tad controversial because I do think it was an outstanding tournament, was the lopsided nature of the knockout stages. It was the fact that we lost Germany so early. It was the fact that Spain as well, in terms of their early exit, like those two things got to me. I was like, we could have such a better quarterfinal stage and beyond if those two teams had made it that far. And it's the one thing, like obviously there was a great novelty to the fact that you've got some crazy games and you've got a lopsided draw and you've got footballs coming home on one side, and that could only have happened because of what happened in terms of big teams going out. But I would have liked a little bit more balance. I would have liked the bigger games, heavyweight clashes to be saved. Like England, Croatia will be potentially ranked as one of the worst. I don't want to say worst, but
I think once England are involved, though, it always intrigues us.
It does, of course, but in terms of the two squads, and I know Croatia has some outstanding world-class players.
Dejan Lovren,
Dejan Lovren. I just feel that that's a semi-final that potentially wasn't deserving of the tag of a World Cup semi-final.
Did you feel it was more like a quarter-final and would have fit that bill better?
Last 16 game.
Ooh. Really?
Yeah.
I know.
Last 16
England-Colombia was a last 16 game.
By definition,
it obviously was, but it was your typical last 16 game.
I'm not sure about, like, Croatia-Denmark to me felt like a group game. Brazil-Mexico, group game. They were all last 16 because of the drama we had. Like, you're right, there was moments of unbelievably high quality, and I think for the most part it was high quality, but it was a tournament whose life support was drama rather than high quality. And maybe I'm being too harsh, I don't know.
I didn't like the fact that Senegal went out on the yellow cards. I just thought, they were better than Japan. But
of course they were, yeah.
They drew with Japan. They'd led twice in the game. They should have put them away, but it was just a bit farcical the way that game played out between Japan and Poland. VAR, where do we stand on it now?
Highlight, obviously.
Where did you stand on it before the tournament?
Bring it in. It literally leads to more accurate refereeing decisions, which has happened.
Yeah, I was worried about it kind of slowing down the game, but actually having seen how it works and obviously the drama of people kind of doing that the whole time.
That's my highlight.
That's a highlight. So I'm all for it. I think there was a particular game, I think, where my mind completely changed about it. I think it was the Neymar, that penalty decision against Costa Rica where it got taken off him, and I just thought that was the moment I was converted.
Yeah. We were watching that game in the office, and there was such a cheer in the office when that penalty got taken off Neymar.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else to add before we wrap up?
As a low light, Argentina. Just a pity. Like,
it is a shame.
Messi's last World Cup as a peak player, and he's surrounded by dross. Unfortunately.
Yeah, idiots and goons, some of them, and the biggest one probably Sampaoli.
Yeah, Sampaoli. Where will he end up next?
I don't know. He'll be running that nightclub with that outfit that he had on in the Croatia game.
Well, I hope so. I personally think Sampaoli and his side-on antics was like a highlight of the tournament. Also, the missing out of the Messi versus Ronaldo situation, which we almost had, kind of almost had in the quarterfinals. That would have made it. That would have rubber stamped this tournament as one of the greats. But unfortunately, we didn't get it. We did get enough. We're spoiled. And of course, there's more to come this weekend. It's the World Cup final with France and Croatia on Sunday, and the big one. It's Belgium versus England on Saturday in the third place playoff. Remember, you can go on to offtheball.com/BoyleSports for all the exclusive offers before those games. That's our lot from World Cup Daily for this entire World Cup, really. Golf Weekly is up next, and Off the Ball is back on the radio and on social channels from 7 o'clock. OTB AM is live every day, including tomorrow from 7:45 AM. We'll chat to you later. Bye bye for now.